and welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Grant.
My name is Dave.
Another week of My Hero Academia. Even though it's not quite the main story, we still got a new episode this week. Before we get right into the thick of it, we want to give a shout out to Mythical Ethan on Reddit for the Deku Shigaraki color swap thumbnail. Dope. So dope.
One of the best of this season.
Yes.
And well timed, because it feels like hopefully we'll see more of Shigaraki soon.
Well, this week didn't hint at that, so let's just get right into the synopsis and then and go from there. So Ryukyu brings her work study students with her when Selkie asked her to team up with him. Right off the top, Dave.
Go ahead. Get it off your chest.
Fuck, man. That
soundbite is like a big part of this like whole season. It's just like, fuck, man.
Like, they had the foot on the accelerator.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And like they had like a good 2 episodes. And like there's some moments in this episode for sure, like, you know, but like it doesn't feel.
And we're gonna break them down. But I wanna say one thing, because it may or may not change your whole outlook and anyone listening to this episode if you weren't like a huge fan.
Yeah.
There's 2 things, and obviously spoilers ahead, right? So one, did you watch all the way to the credits? Because there's an end credit scene.
Yes.
Okay. So there's an end credit scene, and 2, today, the second trailer for the My Hero Academia upcoming movie came out. Did you see that?
I did not. I was trying to avoid those, to be honest.
So, yeah, you know, what I would say about the trailer, specifically this one, is it is super spoiler filled. Like, I feel like I got the whole movie's plot, and there's even like some main plot, potentially spoiler type territory stuff, so stay away from that if you're like kind of a purist. But I think if you grab the end credits from this episode and you look at the trailer, it's like, oh, so this episode kind of exists in a bottle because it's a direct prequel to the movie.
So that is because I knew that, but is that insinuating the movie is canon, or this is kind of just a nothing episode? I think,
like, I'm not an authority on this, I think it's the latter. I think this happens off screen, and then, it'll bring in, like, the main cast, like Midoriya and everybody. But, you know, I haven't seen any indication that the My Hero Academia movie is going to be canon or going to play on anything to do with the actual canonical series. That could change, but they have 2 movies out, and that has not been the case.
I feel like that would have been Front Street by now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, that'd be like a huge way to actually market the movie. Be like, it's canon. Like, people
everyone
love
remember that Demon Slayer movie?
Yeah.
You know, like just dangling that. Yeah. I don't know. It kind of, if that is the case, it kind of just sours me a little more, because it's like I said, the momentum, we've been complaining, and you know, let's just call it what it is. We've been complaining all season about the pacing and like the back and the forth, and like the plot line is just fucking all over the place. They finally stuck to something, and then they throw this filler, like this week of a filler episode, which it is. Let's not beat around the bush.
100%.
It's kind of like, it's a little annoying, but like I get it, you know. It's like, but not even in like a fun way. Like this was such like a non-starter episode. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, it is cool to see like Troppy and some of these characters we don't get enough of. Like, I'm down with that. It's just that when you usually get these episodes, there are stakes, right? It matters. It has some kind of a tie to the main thread of the story. This doesn't really feel like that, because it feels like its only job is to set up a movie. You know, we could be proven wrong. Like, for all we know, you know, the movie villain or you know, like the stuff that's set up in this episode could carry through the season. It just doesn't seem like that's the direction that it's going. So I feel it's kind of disheartening.
A little bit, yeah. Like, you know, it is what it is. Like, it's going to be back next week, and the story is going to continue. But yeah, so it's I guess let's get right into it.
Yeah. So, you know, same kind of typical My Hero stuff. You know, the first couple minutes are recapping the last several episodes of all the students going over to their work studies. But that, you know, to be fair, that is kind of a setup, because it's basically just a means of showing you that Iraraka or Okachoko, I don't even know what name to call her. She goes to Ryukyu's agency along with Froppy And is Pinky there too?
No, it's is it Najiri?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So they all go to Ryukyu's agency. She's a number 10 hero, I believe. And they're talking, like some of that like quick anime-ism like foreshadowing we've talked about, like right at the top of the episode. The first conversation is like, remember back in season 3? Like they may as well just said that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, season 3, episode 14, we had this whole trigger thing that was like a quirk boosting mechanic. We haven't talked about it since, so we're gonna take the opportunity to do that now. And that's what this episode kind of centers around.
Yeah, because it's funny too. Like Najiri kind of just like makes like a comment of, "Oh, can I talk about this one?" It was so like stunted. Yeah. I was like, "What is this?" But like in season 3, that wasn't like triggered though. Like they cleared that up, saying this is something similar to what we saw previous.
Oh, okay. It wasn't the exact same thing.
Yeah. So I think trigger is, and that was the thing that kind of like before I knew this was kind of a setup to the movie. I was like, well, they're really hitting home this trigger stuff. Like, what's this about? This kind of seemed like out of nowhere, and this is probably going to be like a theme of the movie. Yeah. Is what I'm guessing. But
take a drink every time they say the word trigger.
Yeah, yeah, and they said it a lot. So, but yeah. So this and it's like I understand. It was just like it was on the TV, and they're like, "Oh, isn't that crazy?" Yeah. And then it transitions to...
It's the immediate next scene is a bad guy injecting himself with it. It's like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here.
And, let's call in, and like I get, like it's a hero agency, and like again, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but like there was at least there's a definitive reason as to why a Ryukyu's like her group was brought in, because like they're all flyers essentially. Yeah. So I get that. But also, I thought that was interesting too. Selkie makes reference, and whether this is again a part of like the season as a whole, or if it's just secular for the movie, they've been really pointing out like the top 10, like because he references there's like number 10 on the Billboard heroes, and all I can think of is like they're really hitting home
this fascination with the leaderboards.
Yeah, and like how that's like probably going to be like a detriment to them potentially, like they're because. Again, like all I can keep thinking of is Stain and like his lasting legacy, and like there's been little trickles of it this season, and I was actually kind of surprised to see it in this episode too, so like clear. But yeah, so again we're jumping ahead, but there's a mission where Selkie and is it Squire she has like the fish ears there for the hearing. Yeah. How did that boat get away?
Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't. I mean. The bad guy who has a smokescreen quirk like triggered himself. That's kind of funny. Gave himself the boost, and I guess they just escaped in the confusion, even though they appeared to be just like at sea with like nowhere to go.
But like they were towing. We find out like we don't really know what they're towing at first, but like even if there is like a massive smokescreen, a boat like that just doesn't disappear, and they make reference like, oh, there's all these islands around us, but like it looks to me like it's just open sea. Yeah. Like how far could they have really gotten?
Well, they led
like a swimming hero.
Yeah, I think we must have missed the line of dialogue about them. Like, this chase was happening in the Bermuda Triangle, and
oh my god, did they really? Or are you fucking with me right
now? I'm fucking with you.
Oh, that would have made so much more sense.
It would have.
But
no, good point. Like, yeah, they just sort of conveniently escape, but like the show's just like, we don't have time to talk about that. Call Ryukyu. It's time for the next scene. Like, it's just like go. It's like the intro is so fast.
The irony is of a season with pace problems, it literally gallops from scene to scene in this episode, which is like probably the most annoying part. But
because before you know it, Ryukyu and Froppy are there.
Yeah, they're just there.
And Uraruka. And then, before they do anything, Selkie's like, anyway, beach day, gang. Which is, I mean, the worst part of the episode. I get it. Like, it wasn't like...
Could have been a lot worse.
I was about to say, Grant knows, and I think if you're listening to this, you guys probably know, like, I'm really not here for that weeb shit. Like, that... I think weeb is probably the wrong word. Just, like, that creepy... The over-sexualization of characters, even the young ones. I mean, even if they're not young, I don't like it. I think it's almost I've never seen it handled well. It is always jarring to me. I don't like it. It's why I can't watch shows like Overlord and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like it.
No.
It's not for me. Whatever. So with that in mind, and having seen it in other shows, like that could have been worse.
Incredibly tame.
I still did not like it, but it could have been much, much worse.
Because, like, you know, considering, like, I remember distinctively there being, there was like a hot spring episode, in the show, and this was like significantly more tamer than that. At least we didn't have Mineta running around like just causing havoc and just like, you know, being like all-star creepy. So it's like I said, it could have been a lot worse. Completely. And like the justification of like they need to know the good before the bad, it's all about the mindset. And it's like, yeah, but like what, you know, it's
that one line of dialogue is like trying to justify that scene existing, but like whatever. I mean, you're right, like, you know, not having Mineta in that scene is kind of a saving grace. And you know, I guess a silver lining depending on your outlook, because that could have been much worse. It doesn't last long though. Like, you know, it's like, you know, volleyball, barbecue, swimming montage, and then, you know, again with the fucking pace right back to the ship. And then it's like, okay, I guess we're gonna just start doing recon now. Like it's very, very fast.
Yeah.
I also don't think that I noticed Ryukyu's quirk. When she turns into a dragon, she looks like the dragon from Shrek.
Oh my god.
She looks exactly like the dragon from Shrek.
It's creepy. Like, dude, it's
how jarring would it be if Eddie Murphy showed up as Donkey, like the voice acting?
Oh my god!
In an episode.
My Hero was doing the voice of like, imagine she's up in the sky and it's the Nigiri's voiced by Eddie Murphy. That'd be pretty funny.
Apparently, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, on the point of Ryukyu's power, like, and you know, this is obvious. Like, lots of shows and across various genres do this, but I just love when, you know, a character that transforms into something, or whether it's a helmet or a suit, and like there's clearly like voice modulation going on. It's the simplest thing. Like, it's, you can always tell when it's like, you know, they do it, but I just think it's a good voice modulation of the character.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's kind of, it's just like, you know, it's, you see it in everything. And I love it. Like, everyone sounds cooler when they're wearing a helmet, you know, or they're wearing a mask, or, you know, they're in their monster form or something. But I don't know, just, it was kind of like, it just kind of stuck out to me for whatever reason.
Fair is fair.
I was probably grasping at straws this episode, but good.
Go.
I like the dragon voice. It's kind of creepy, to be honest, but I like it.
Love me a dragon voice.
Yeah.
Selkie and Froppy team up, start doing recon underwater, because he's a seal. I don't know why, but I loved the announcer's like breakdown of Selkie. It might have been earlier in his first scene, or it might be here. I just can't remember. He's like, Selkie, hero name, Seal. Quirk, he does pretty much everything a seal can.
They hit it home with Froppy too, like in the like the commercial break thing, where they show the character screens. Also, I think Selkie is voiced by the announcer guy.
Oh, really?
Because when he's doing, throughout this whole episode, they litter like these kawaii moments of him being like a cute seal. When he does that voice, I'm like, oh, that's the dude. That's microphone or announcer. I don't know what his name. Microphone Jack is the girl in Class 1A, I think.
Interesting.
I just stuck out, like when you that kawaii voice and all that. He was trying to look super cute and all that. I was like, oh, that's him. It's funny that you hear like a little, you know, intonation in the voice sometimes. Like, yes, I see your, like, how you're doing different voices for all these different characters. Because, like,
I know exactly what you mean.
And that's probably a My Hero thing. There's so many characters in the show. I'm sure there's a lot of crossover of like voice actors.
Gotta be overlap, 100%.
But
so again with the pace, like this isn't really going on long, and then you cut to the villains. Like, all right, anyway, now that the heroes have headed out, we should head out too.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're immediately seen by Selkie and Froppy, who board the ship. Heroes they self-trigger and inject themselves, or it's just a smokescreen guy, really. He does this. He's like a one-hit wonder. He's like, I got one move and I'm doing it all day. And then he fucking smoke screens. But like they kind of play right into the hero's hands here. I was kind of expecting a twist because everything was kind of going too well.
Sure.
Because then Ryukyu sees them in the air despite the smoke screen. because she's in the air.
Yeah.
Selkie's out here bodying people.
Yeah, they really threw us a couple dollars at him smashing that dude into the glass.
Yeah, I was pretty down with that. I was like, imagine like one day like they have a scene like this, like a hero like rescuing somebody, and they just go full like invincible, and they just because this show has had blood and stuff on it before.
Yeah,
and they just like dismember a villain or something. I'd be down with that.
They definitely hold back on it on that though. I find.
Yeah.
It's only like the major emotional moments where like they're really trying to hit home like how battered and bruised everyone is. But yeah.
You know what's funny? You just made me think of is the amount of blood in Dragon Ball Z, and they take out the blood in Dragon Ball Super.
Oh really?
There's no blood. It's just sweat.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not very good. Anyway, so they get away. And there's your twist, right? Like, it looks like Selkie and Froppy are just cleaning house here.
Yeah.
But one of the villains gets away on a plane, and then Ryukyu's like, this Shrek dragon ain't fast enough to keep up with that plane.
I couldn't believe it. I heard that. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
So
like,
you're a dragon.
Like, okay, I'm going to jump ahead here because this is the most ridiculous thing in the episode to me. Is they talk about how Ryukyu can't catch, like she can't match the speed. But then later in the episode, like, let's just get into it. Like, Uraraka saves the day, more or less. And there's a whole scene where she gets in, she uses her gunhead martial arts, which is, I'm always down to see. I think it's so funny. It's just always that flip over her shoulder every time.
Always the same flip, the same judo flip. I will just take a quick second to note that, like, her new support item is like repels her.
Yes.
Which seems handy given the nature of her quirk. So, like, I tip my cap. Keep going.
Yes. So, like, cool. Like, and like I said, this episode does have things in it that like will be everlasting and are cool. But so I'm just gonna call her Dragon because I feel like I'm barely getting Ryukyu out. And then Nijiri, they can't catch up. But to save Uraraka later down the road, they do like a fucking tornado, like a hurricane move where she propels Nijiri, who like subdues the plane.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like, it was like, why wasn't that done? Like, you're the fucking pro hero with like one of the top like upperclassmen at UA. Like, I know everyone's supposed to learn here, but like, if someone's gonna get away, like, shoot your shot.
Yeah.
It's when that happened later in the episode, I was just like, what the fuck?
It's kind of, I wonder if there's a word for this. I won't dwell on it, but I wonder if there's, because it is kind of you see that sometimes, right? Where a main character's like, oh no, my main ability isn't working at the most inconvenient time. And then that inconvenient time takes like a quick beat, and they're like, now it's working when the stakes are slightly lower.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, like, Uraraka's like, they tell her like, well, why can't you just levitate the plane? And she's flat out like, it's too big.
Yeah.
And then, she gets kind of scolded of like, are you giving up? And it's like, well, she kind of like, and then that's the thing, like, how does she just do it? Was that her being...
She should have said plus ultra. It would have made me feel better.
Yeah, I don't know. And it seems like she went from like, no, I just can't do it. And for whatever reason, Nijiri's like shockwave ability allowed the plane to be less light so she could do it, or it less big. I don't know.
That makes sense to me, but that wasn't really communicated very well on screen if that's the case. But it's like that seemed to have done something. So I don't know.
I guess we just have to deal with it. It's just, I don't know. It seemed
she was Vin Diesel and she forgot that like this was to protect her family. She was like, wait, this plane is gonna hurt my family.
Well, she also had the note of like, yeah, the drugs are gonna kill all the ocean animals and creatures, and I'm like, well, okay, fair is fair.
That was so fucking random. I was like, now we need to save this for the environment.
Yeah,
But okay, yeah, sure. Like, give me stakes, I guess. Fuck it. I mean,
even in the 11th hour, throw me some random stakes, I suppose. But
yeah, it's fucking weird. Ryukyu grabs that shit. Now she can catch the plane, of course. So then she catches it and lands it safely on the water. Mission complete. Back to barbecue.
Yeah,
back to the beach.
Back to the beach. I can't believe they went back a second time.
They're like, yo, you guys like that beach shit from earlier, didn't you? Well, surprise, motherfucker. We go right back.
Leanne and I were watching the episode, and like when they cued back to the second beach scene, I just looked over. I paused it. I looked over to her, and I was like, Dave's gonna fucking hate this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, I just knew it. Like, yeah, it's like it's by means not the worst episode of anime I've ever seen.
No.
But it's like, you've been giving us the juice, man. Like, you can't just take it away just for the sake of marketing.
Yeah, it's just weird when, when I don't want to say the stakes are high because they failed to kind of establish any stakes, but it's just weird when you see something like a well-oiled machine like My Hero Academia just like blatantly mishandled character and story and tropes like this stuff. Like, I hate this fucking shit, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it. Don't do it. Cut it out. But I don't know, if you frame like the audience and the demographic of the show, maybe I'm being too hard on it. Maybe certain shows like raise the bar a little bit too much. I don't know.
Sure.
But I don't like it.
No,
the beach stuff. But whatever. Like you said, at least fucking Mineta wasn't there.
It was tame. It was tame.
Yeah. They did have like Seal there at the beginning, or Selkie, saying like, oh, they have to enjoy like the good times because, whatever. I can almost buy that. Like that,
sure.
They framed it, I guess. I was surprised though at the end, and this is why I stayed around till the end credits, which I rarely do, because they kind of return to the plot. A lot of the times with these, with episodes of the show, it's like, okay, villain's been, cuffed, they're in the car, that's it, on to the next episode. Like, this is over now. Mm-hmm. But then they start talking about, I wonder where the drugs came from. And then they're like, they were headed for this Otheon country in Europe. And it's like, okay, well, why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
And then, credits, and then end credits, and a guy with uncomfortable facial hair sets up something about heroes that butt in and how, let's begin the salvation of humanity because, well, villain dialogue, let's be honest. So yeah, there's that. And then, like that day or the day after the movie trailer drops, and here we are. So yeah, kind of I don't know if I would call this a bottle episode. I think that kind of remains to be seen if like this episode will impact the rest of the series, or if it simply serves as kind of like a serve to the movie, or who knows. Mm-hmm. But, there have been worse episodes, there will be worse episodes, but, not the strongest of this season. Mm-hmm. I think that seems fair.
Yeah. Well, so before we kind of wrap up, there is one thing at the beginning of the episode they showed, and then also, I think it was last episode, they also kind of did a teaser. You know how, like, they show everyone is, like, who they're having their...
Work study with.
Yeah. I think that is it's one of two things. They're either going to set up more singular episodes with each of the classmates, which I don't think there's enough time to do that. Or when everything kind of throws down across the country, it's going to jump from like region to region of like the class 1A and their assigned heroes throwing down with like...
I'd be down with that.
So I think that is something to look forward to. I think it's, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't think I'm like, this isn't like wise of me. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there's good little notes of the episode of what's to come. Because like I said, they hit it last weekend right up top this week too. So, but
interesting.
Yeah.
Good point. I hadn't thought of that. Like they did kind of go out of their way to show us where the rest of the cast is. So maybe that would work.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week.
Think so?
Cool. Thank you guys for listening. If you're new here, don't hesitate to check out the post show, which is a show we drop 2 days after this one, where we talk about everything else that we're watching, both anime and not anime. Like we're both watching To Your Eternity and Tokyo Revengers right now, so we usually talk about that. Loki just wrapped up, so we would talk about that when it was on. Just more stuff that isn't just dissection of single anime episodes. So if you're into that, listen or take a listen, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do the relevant social media thing on the relevant social media platform. Thank you for supporting the show, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.